Coming up from the Northeast Live Studios in Guwahati, Northeast Tonight with Wasbir Hussain.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. The Autonomous District Council Bill issue has threatened to widen the Hill Valley divide in Manipur once again. The All Tribal Students Union Manipur, or ATSUM, has called off its economic blockade, but the issue is far from being resolved. Groups like ATSUM want greater financial and administrative autonomy in the hill areas. The Hill Areas Committee, the apex administrative body for Manipur's hill areas, recommended introduction and execution of the Autonomous District Council's Amendment Bill 2021. But the Biren Singh government, instead of introducing this bill, tabled two other bills, the Manipur Hill Areas District Council's 6th and 7th Amendment Bill. This was something ATSUM is opposed to, for it feels that the spirit of autonomy as envisaged in the 2021 bill is diluted. A showdown followed with the state government arresting all the top leaders of ATSUM and releasing them several days later after a so-called understanding was supposed to have been arrived at. The ATSUM later rejected the agreement and the stalemate continues. Now the big question is, can Biren Singh resolve the issue? Can the hill areas in Manipur come to enjoy maximum autonomy? Will this issue keep the Hill Valley divide alive? To discuss the subject, I am joined by ATSUM General Secretary Andrea Simruang. From Imphal, I am being joined by Manipur BJP spokesman Johnson Elengbam. Also in Imphal, I have Kuraiza Mathoba, Vice President, International Peace and Social Advancement, or IPSA, and Manipur University professor and commentator Dr. Thiam Bharat Singh. Gentlemen, welcome to Northeast Tonight. First, let me go to you, Mr. Andrea Simruang is the General Secretary of ATSUM. Mr. Andrea, what is the dispute all about? Because an understanding was supposed to have been reached. All the arrested leaders were released. And then the ATSUM, went ahead and rejected the agreement. What were the main issues? What are the differences now, Andrea?
Thank you, Slide, providing us this to share our views or demands before the world. Yes, coming to the query, I would like to quickly go to the paper. The Article 7C of Indian Constitution, read with the Manipur Legislative Affairs Committee Order 19, provides a scheme of administration. So, whereby the Hill Areas Committee, they had recommended a bill in the year 2021, which aims to bring equity development in the state of Manipur. Yes, the office of ATSUM has been demanding since last August, and it's 11 months till now. For the past, the leaders of ATSUM were arrested, and then comes the demand of the ATSUM as well as the federating units to release the leaders, as well as the demand that is the bill be tabled, introduced in the House and be discussed. But The MOU, which was signed on 7th of August, that MOU was the, I would say, imposition. That MOU, signing of MOU doesn't come with a unanimous of all the ATSUM executive as well as the federating units of ATSUM. The MOU was signed secretly without the knowledge of the whole team of ATSUM as well as the federating units. So we feel that this MOU is an impose. So we denounce it, and still our demand stands still.
All right. One of the reasons that Andrea said was that the MOU was signed secretly. That is what he is saying. But Andrea, you know, do you think that the 6th and 7th Amendment Bill that was proposed by the state government, do you think that is going to dilute the nature of autonomy? Do you think that is not going to fulfill the aspirations of the tribal people?
Here we are talking about the constitutional provisions. Now the Office of ATSUM and federating units, we had to flatly reject the 2 amendment. Our demand is on the bill which was recommended by the Hilarious Committee last year. See, the Hilarious Committee, they are empowered as per the Presidential Order of 1972 to recommend a bill before the government which relates to the scheduled matters. Here, it is clearly mentioned in the Presidential Order of 1972 that the power functioning of the ADC vested with the Hilarious Committee. So therefore, the Hilarious Committee, they have recommended it. And in fact, it is the obligation of the state government to introduce in the House of Assembly. So we have no knowledge of the 2 amendment bills that was introduced.
All right, Andrea, I'll come back to you. Let me take a quick reaction from Mr. Johnson Ellenbaum, the BJP spokesman. Mr. Johnson Ellenbaum, you know, what I understood from Mr. Andrea, the General Secretary of ATSUM, is that, you know, the fear is that the state government was trying to dilute the powers of the Hilarious Committee and therefore going against the constitutional provision. Now, what do you have to say? Because Chief Minister Mr. Biren Singh has said, even after ATSUM has rejected the understanding reached on 7th August, even after that, Chief Minister has said that the issue will be amicably resolved. Now, what can you tell us?
Well, first of all, I'm not able to hear what Mr. Andre has said. But as far as I know, that the state government has acted promptly to all the important issues that has been raised by the ATSUM and the predecessor to ATSUM also some. And one important thing is this very bill, you know, which they have proposed in last year in 2021. This draft bill was presented in the form of a bill, and it has already been decided that this bill is not going to pass through the Manipur Legislative Assembly. One reason why, because, you know, one of the main issue in the state is the fear of a bifurcation of the state, administrative bifurcation. What I mean here is, so what we are feeling is at the moment is people are really not accepting that proposed draft bill because it wants to set up two government, parallel government, one for hill, one for valley. It is something like that. So basically all the elements which has been required for greater autonomy are already there in the ADC bill. And very recently, and this August House also, the state government has, the Hill Areas Committee has come up with 2 amendments. This also is very important because it has almost covered all the points which has been raised by ATSUM, especially the devolution of power and also increase of the number of constituencies of the newly established districts of Manipur, hill districts of Manipur. So I think everything can be discussed fair and there is nothing to hide. The hill areas committees are actually the representative of the hill people. All the elected members of the hill areas are automatically members of the hill area committee under Article 371C. And all the matters can be sit down and discussed. But what the people of Manipur feared for so long of the against the draft bill is that the already theory, the already prevailing theory which we fear, the state within a state formation is not going to be accepted by the people of Manipur.
Okay,
this is one of the main reasons that we cannot have two chief secretaries in one state.
Yes, Mr. Ellenbaum, you are saying that everything can be resolved through talks. Yes, most complicated things, any complicated issue can be resolved through talks. We have seen that. Now, what was the purpose? What was the need of arresting the ATSUM leaders and complicating the situation? Because, there is room for talks, isn't it? If the Chief Minister has even now said, after the ATSUM has rejected the agreement of August 7th, even after that, the Chief Minister said that we are going to resolve this issue amicably. That means the Chief Minister is ready for talks. Then what was the need for arresting the people and arresting the ATSUM leaders?
This is one of the important issue which has remained with the state of Manipur. As far as I know, this is not the first case that the leaders of the hill leaders are arrested. In the past also, in 2010, we have the same issue. In 2005, we had the same issue. Now, this same issue has remained as a chronic issue in the state for the last so many years. Let me tell you, Wasbir, if I'm not wrong, if they have to come up with the draft proposal, draft bill, now this bill has to be discussed by the members of the Hill Areas Committee. Now, if that proposed bill aims at something which tries to bifurcate the state administration, hill and the valley. Now, this is only trying to bring back the legacy of the British rule in Manipur, like hill and valley. This is one of the main issues which we have fear, which we have fear. Now, this is going to be happen. You see all the organizations, underground organizations operating in the hill. In the 4-point agreements under the suspension operation, what was the third point, which is very important, is that we will preserve the territorial integrity of Manipur.
Right.
And all of them have gone separately asking for a state within a state. So we have some fear. And I'm a person, you know me, Wasbir, that I'm not going to remain silent. The people of Manipur are watching. We will not accept. And we have already, if you can remember, in 2016, we led a delegation of the Joint Forum of Civil Societies of Manipur. This includes the Kukis, the Nagas, everyone. In that delegation, we have presented a memorandum to the then Home Ministry regarding the economic blockade imposed by UNC at that time. So what we have agreed was for every issue in Manipur in future,
right.
that
okay,
the protesters, the agitators should not indulge in economic blockade.
Right, right.
And why they have done so? The Kuki MP was there in that delegation. So everything can be opted. Now, as far as the action taken by the government, I think if you can remember in 2015, one PIL filed by R.K. Joyshana, and the Manipur High Court has given an interim direction to the state government that you can use minimal force for maintaining and sustaining the free traffic flow in two national highways. So on that regard, the state government could have done so many things, but at least on the ground of...
Johnson, I'll come back to you. Yes, you have cited the High Court agreement, High Court ruling that minimum force can be used, but that is the law. Nobody can actually block traffic and so on. So that is well known. Even if there is no High Court ruling, even the normal rules and regulations can be used to ensure that traffic movement is there. But the issue, Khuraiza Mathoba, I'm coming to you, Professor, but let me go to Khuraiza Mathoba. But Khuraiza Mathoba, former leader of UCM and Vice President IPSA, Khuraiza, the basic issue is a trust between the hill and the valley people, because one of the major focus of the Biren Singh government in the past and even this time, the second tenure, is that he wanted to bridge the hill-valley divide. There was so many times, even the cabinet meeting were held in the hill areas. So there was an attempt by the Biren Singh government to bridge the divide that was long-standing divide between the hill and the valley. Now, how do you look at this ADC issue? Is there a fear really among the valley people that, you know, if maximum autonomy is given to the hill areas, they can become a separate entity in themselves?
First of all, Wasbir, the thing is regarding the attempt to bridge in the gap between the hills and the valley, as you had just mentioned. Of course, the government also trying their best to do it, and we civil society is also very much working on that in that line. You might have also come across the recent, joining of hands between the United Naga Council and Kokomi, which I am also a member of that committee.
Yes.
And we are working on to work together regarding some of the serious issues faced by the indigenous communities of the state. And coming to your other point, see, we have to look into our past, precedents that the various, hill-based, tribal-based organization, including the armed groups, has attempted, to assert in the state of Manipur. Number one, the peace talk between the armed group of the Nagas and the government of India are looking forward to create a new, territory in the name of Naga, which will be, bifurcated from the state of Manipur. Number one. On the other side, the armed groups of the Kukis, suspension of operation groups, so many militant groups are looking forward to create a homeland for the Kukis only. That too from, bifurcating from the state of Manipur again. And because of that attempt, there is always a doubt or, hindrance to the people, majority people of the state who wants to defend and protect or maintain the status quo of the present existing state of Manipur. So the very bill, the ADC Bill 2021, which the ATSUM leader are, compelling the state government to, table on the House and passed it, is very much a bill which attempt to fulfill the demand of the two armed groups, which have been negotiating with the government of India for so long, like, creating of a territorial council, like, provisions of Article 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution,
Right.
and many other things. So
Okay.
all these things has been incorporated in the very bill under the name of ADCs. We don't say that we need to. There isn't any necessity for empowering or
Right.
making the administration under ADC efficient. We do require that, but we will support that. But it should not bypass the existing state government and the assembly.
So,
But the very
let me-
bill of ADC attempts to
Right.
bypass that.
Yeah.
So that
Khurazam,
cannot be allowed.
I'll absolutely. It was a very clear-cut statement. Let me come to Dr. Thyam Bharat Singh, associate professor in Manipur University and a well-known commentator. Dr. Bharat Singh, the sense that I'm getting after listening to Mr. Johnson Ilangbam and Mr. Khuraiza Mathoba is that there is a fear among the people living in the valley, that if you give maximum autonomy to the hill areas, it could be a prelude. It could be a prelude to a demand for a separate kind of a state if you give full autonomy. And that some of the militant groups who are currently under suspension of operations are also raising similar kind of demands. So is that the fear, and is this fear genuine? What do you think? What is your neutral view?
Yeah. I thank you first for your nice question. It's true. Our people are in the dark because we have been facing this kind of uncertainty. As mentioned earlier, there are insurgent groups under talk, and there is an implication of bifurcation in some of the districts. I would like to clearly place like this: there are various ethnic communities in Manipur, and there is a tendency to to create autonomous district. So we are very much aware about this, and people are having this fear if there is maximum autonomy given to our hill brothers, then there is a likelihood of creating state within state. But we are not opposing the demand for greater autonomy, for financial autonomy, administrative autonomy, and also want to make a clarification that in the previous speaker that there is a problem between the students and the hill area committee, and also there is a communication gap among the student of all tribal student union of Manipur. We are living in the valley areas, and we are not totally opposing their aspiration. So I can observe from the recent development that there is a communication gap among the students of tribal, that is all tribal student union. For example, after the signing of memorandum of understanding with the state government representative, the next day the all India ATSUM suspended vice president named Khote.
Okay,
we thought the problem solved.
Professor, I'll come back to you. You have raised some interesting point. Let me once again turn to Andrea Sinruang. Andrea, you may have heard the three panelists. They're saying that they are not really opposed to your aspirations of the tribal people, but they feel that a state within a state may be the first step towards actually bifurcation or separation of the hill areas from the valley. That is the fear. How justified is this fear? How do you look at this?
Thank you. Let me make it very simple that the demand of the ATSUM should not be construed as otherwise. It should not be taken as otherwise. We respect and understand the sentiments of the communities in the state of Manipur. Now, the movement or the demand of ATSUM is very clear and simple that it is a demand or a support to what the legislators have recommended as empowered under the Article 371C. The demand for strengthening the autonomous district council of the hill, in fact, that will bring equity development in the state of Manipur, and it doesn't contain any section to create a state within a state or to have a separate administration.
No, let us fix. I'm having an audio problem with Andrea there. Can we have his phone? Andrea? I'm coming back to you in a minute because I'm having a little difficulty as far as your audio is concerned. So basically, Mr. Johnson Ilengbaum, Andrea wants to say that this fear is not justified. The fear is not justified. That's what he is basically trying to say. So why is this fear? Because there are autonomy issue given to many other parts. Say, for example, in Assam, there is the Bodoland Territorial Council, there is the Dimasa Autonomous Council, there is the Karbi Autonomous Council. So how is the situation different in Manipur? Is it because of the Naga issue that you are more worried?
Wasbir, if you can spare me some time, let me just give you an idea. First thing is we have Manipur Legislative Assembly Hill Area Committee Order 1972. Under this order, if you go back into the schedule number 2, schedule matter is described in 13 clause. Okay, all the areas where the ADC, the Hill Areas Committee, is going to perform has been enlisted in that schedule. And one of the main reason why we have a problem here is, as I have told you, this is not the first time. Why we are facing this problem again? I think it's actually the onus should go to the elected leaders, or should it be blame on the Manipur Legislative Assembly? I don't know. Let the people decide. But the truth is, now all these scheduled matters has been closely discussed and has been put in the already existing ADC Autonomous District Council Act 1971. Also, I think most of the claims which Mr. Andrea has said is already there. Now, there is a distinction between the Hill Area Committee and the ADC, which is to be formed under the under this act. The Hill Area Committee acts as a supervisory body over the ADC. So, Hill Area Committee members are also the elected leaders, the tribal elected leaders from the hill areas. And ADC is going to be formed under this act, and it has to be monitored by the Hill Area Committee. So whatever things which are going on, which has remained an issue of contention, has already been discussed by all the members of the Legislative Assembly from the elected members from the hill areas.
Yeah.
So so it is absolutely clear. Let me just conclude. So what they have said is, a draft bill which proposed, they will simply say that, as for instance, in the case of suspension of operation, the third point was that they will preserve and uphold the territorial integrity of Manipur. Next day, they went to Delhi and demand for Jalangam. That is a different cookie state within Manipur. And also the same story with our Naga Britons. Now, these things are happening in our state and has remained one of the chronic issues.
Okay.
So this is the fear that we have.
Yeah,
so now, Wasbir, one minute, let me just conclude.
No, please conclude.
If they are proposing a bill which set forth, they are proposing a bill which set forth a different administrative control, having two chief secretaries of the same power and rank to run Manipur into two hubs, hill and valley. I think this is unacceptable.
Okay.
Why? Because we have already the 7th amendment which has been proposed in this bill.
You have said that two administration is not possible. Andrea is back with us. His audio was bad. I hope his audio is good now. Andrea Sinruang, the General Secretary of ATSUM. Andrea, two administration is not possible. That is the main stumbling block. That is the main point of difference. You can have maximum financial autonomy. You can have administrative autonomy, but you cannot have two separate set of administrators, two separate chief secretaries, for example, and it is seen as the first step towards total bifurcation. That is the main fear. How would you address that?
See here, we are not talking beyond the Constitution. Here, the Constitution power and functioning of the ADC, it is purely within the purview of the Hill Areas Committee. So here, the Hill Areas Committee, they have recommended a bill to strengthen the ADC. And then to strengthen in this ADC, to bring equity development in the state of Manipur. Not to, have two separate administrations. Yes, there are certain queries to be made, or certain debate has to be made there. That debate has to be done in the House of the Assembly. The legislative procedure has to be followed. So that is the main demand of the ATSUM, and the demand of ATSUM should not be construed otherwise, should not be taken otherwise. Let the bill be tabled, it be discussed. So the Assembly, as the Manipur Legislative Assembly, take a decision on that. So that is a very, I think this is kind of holistic approach from the ATSUM, and then this is not the new demand of the ATSUM. In fact, it is the recommendation made by the legislators, the Hill legislators, the honorable members of the Hill Areas Committee.
Right. Now, Johnson, Andrea is making the point that this is not the, and let me wrap up. Andrea is making the point that this is not the demand of ATSUM. This is the demand of the Hill Areas Committee, and all the elected members of the Manipur Legislative Assembly who are from the Hill districts are members of the Hill Area Committee, and it is their decision, it is their demand. So why can't you discuss this on the floor of the House? Johnson.
Wasbir, I think, wisely put up by my friend from ATSUM. If you really look into the issue, the thing is, now the Hill Area Committee, the proposed draft bill has demanded for maximum autonomy of the hill areas. Now, as I've already told you, now what are the areas which they really want to raise up in this bill? Say, for example, if it is in the case for devolution of power, then we can have a sitting and we can have series of discussion on this. Now the subjects which are incorporated under this act, if they want to increase it, that also can be done. Now, the main important point is, you know, a state is a state. We cannot bypass and we cannot underestimate the presence of a state in any affairs that exist within a state. So, say, for example, under this act, the entire Hill Autonomous District Council are accountable to the deputy commissioners. Now, if they propose something, and I'm just giving an example, there is a presence of the government in any affairs that exist within the state. Now, this has to remain. So, we cannot have an autonomy also. I am not saying that this is going to, that they have proposed, but we cannot expect anything which really put the government's hands off.
All right.
I think that is also one important thing. What are the main key?
Now, that is the point made by the state government.
And one important.
I'll have to go for a very short commercial break. But before that, I'll come to the professor immediately after the break. But Khuraiza Mathoba, can this issue be discussed through talks? Because the Chief Minister has already said that this can be. And Mr. Andrea is saying, why can't this issue be discussed on the floor of the House? Let the elected representatives discuss this matter on the floor of the House and come up with their suggestions. Why is the government not willing to discuss it on the floor of the House? That is the question raised by Andrea.
Wasbir, can we discuss the bill regarding the sovereignty of Manipur in the House if we propose a draft bill?
No, but nobody is proposing sovereignty of Manipur. That is not the issue now.
No.
They are asking for autonomy.
Can we discuss it? Can we propose a bill?
No, you cannot.
Likewise, this particular bill, you have to go through every page of this bill. These bills contain certain provisions which says that the power should be given to the ADC, bypassing the state government and directly communicate with the union government to transact funds, bypassing the state government, number one. Number two, they also demanding for a separate hill secretariat under the rank of a chief secretary, not less than the existing state government chief secretary. They are also demanding to give the power to levy taxes even from schools, transfers and postings, promotions, right under the ADC. How on earth we can have one government and another one who can exercise that? Can such bill be tabled in the House and debate?
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
something like debating the idea of sovereignty.
Okay, I'll get a response to this from India as well as Professor Bharat Singh, but right after this very, very short commercial break. Okay, welcome back. Let me go to Professor Bharat Singh, and then I will go to Andrea once again. Professor Bharat Singh, what is the way forward? You know, that is the big question, because this issue has been lingering for many years. At one point of time, on several issues, tribal organizations have asked the MLAs, elected representatives from the hill areas, to also resign. Earlier, I'm talking about earlier, on different issues, on this issue, they have asked the MLAs to resign and show solidarity with their demand. Now what the Chief Minister has said, even after the August 7 agreement was denounced by ATSUM, Chief Minister of Manipur, Mr. Biren Singh, said that this issue is going to be resolved amicably. We have to take the Chief Minister seriously. That means he still thinks that this issue can be resolved through dialogue. How do you look at it?
Yeah, I have also observed certain points over the last few developments, because I can see there is a gap between the bills. One bill produced by the legislatures, and another bill demanded by the ATSUM. So there is a gap between the bill. So it shows that there is a lack of understanding basically between the HAC members, Hill Area Committee members, and the students themselves. And then our concern is to resolve this matter, they should close this gap by holding stakeholders meeting at the community level, and they should stand very firmly, and also they should take a firm resolution, and then after that they should disseminate this information among the general population, so that our darkness has gone.
You know, Professor, you see, you know, at the end of the day, Hill Areas Committee is an organization representing the people in the hill areas, because they are elected representatives. All the MLAs from the hill areas are members of the Hill Areas Committee. Now Andrea is raising a question. Suppose the bill is introduced, does not mean that the bill is going to be passed. It's just a bill. It has not become a law. Now the point is, Andrea is asking, why can't this bill be discussed on the floor of the House? Now Athoba is saying, can you discuss sovereignty? But here, the issue is not about sovereignty. Issue about ATSUM is making a demand, does not mean that the demand is going to be fulfilled. But he is saying, why can't you discuss it on the floor of the House? Professor.
Yeah, this is the problem I have just highlighted, because there is a gap of opinion between the Hill Area Committee members and the ATSUM student body, because they produce separate bill, and also the student wanted separate bill. Why don't they close this gap? Why don't they hold a discussion among the tribal, this general population of the hill areas, so that their difference is closed, and then this shows the gap between the bills. And in my opinion, this gap should be closed by holding a negotiation between the government, between the government and the students.
Professor, all right.
So that
all right, Professor, I'll come to you. I'll also come to Mr. Johnson Elengba, but before that, let me ask a direct question to Mr. Andrea Sinruang. Andrea, will ATSUM and the federating organizations, will you be willing to hold dialogue on this issue with the Chief Minister or representatives of the Manipur government? Are you prepared for talks or not?
Definitely, we are a citizen of the state. We want peace, we want development, and we want dialogue. This all can be done through dialogue, but sincere approach, sincere dialogue has to be there. It should not be a management of the issue. It should have a sincere approach towards a solution. And the solution has to be as per the given rules and procedure, as per the permissible provisions under the Article 371C.
Right. But Andrea, you see, any negotiation will succeed only if there is a give and take approach. Now, is ATSUM willing to adopt a give and take approach or not?
Yes, that is a universal mode of the negotiation. But the matter we are talking here about is a constitutional matter, and this is not the demand that we bought it from somewhere, but it is a demand which was, put up unanimously by the legislators of the Hill. So we want that it has to be resolved as per the given rule, that is the rules of procedure and the conduct of business, that is in the assembly.
So ATSUM is not only ready for talks, but also ready for a give and take approach. But ATSUM is saying that there has to be a sincere approach from the government side. Now, before coming to Mr. Johnson Ellingbaum, Andrea, do you think ATSUM is ATSUM also planning to move the courts? Do you want to take is the legal option being considered?
That maybe we will consider to it also later on.
So legal option will also be considered later on. Now, Johnson Ellingbaum, you have heard Andrea Sinruang, the General Secretary of ATSUM, is saying that they are willing for talks. They are also willing for a give and take approach, but they want a sincere initiative from the state government. So when will this sincere initiative from the state government come, and in what form? Will the Chief Minister himself be willing to talk to ATSUM and the federating units?
Wasbir, if my friend can cite any instance where our Chief Minister has gone somewhere which they are saying that there is no sincerity at all. I think it is an absolutely wrong.
No,
I
he
think
has not said.
Our Chief Minister in the history of Manipur is the only.
Johnson, he has not said that state government is insincere. He is just saying a sincere initiative is needed.
I heard. Is there any lapses in our sincerity? I'm asking Andrea, because see, the first question which he raised was, why was the bill not discussed in the assembly? Let me tell you that the bill was first introduced in the last 11th Manipur Legislative Assembly. So that assembly did not pass it. So it has to be reintroduced. We cannot simply, automatically it has gone lapses. So the same bill has to be reintroduced again. And one thing is, the Autonomous District Council Act is a central act. Only amendments can be done on subjects which are included in the scheduled matters, that is listed in 13 numbers. So beyond that, the amendment, we cannot do it. If it is the amendment which fall beyond these scheduled matters, then Parliament has to amend it. Now this has to be well known by our friend from ATSUM. And secondly, now every matters except for money bill, all the bill has to be referred to the Hill Area Committee. It's a constitutional mandatory provision which has been given under the Article 371C. So what is the purpose of the Manipur State Legislative Assembly to discuss a matter which has to be brought up by the Hill Area Committee? Hill Area Committee itself is a part of the Manipur Legislative Assembly. So we cannot force everything to the whim and fancy of what we wanted. Now, if we have to follow the laws, then the procedures of law has to be followed in toto.
I'm asking.
No, what?
Yeah, no, I don't have much time, Johnson. You're raising some very valid points. Quickly ask, to be brief. Let me ask Khuraiza Mathoba, do you look at it as a clash between the hills and the valley? It is, but I look at it as an issue of aspirations being raised, and the issue need to be addressed by the state government. You can demand anything. It is up to the state government to address those issues to the best possible solution. How do you look at it? Do you look at it that way, or you look at it as a clash between the hills and the valley?
No, there is no question of erupting clashes between the hills and the valley. When you just say that, Wasbir, anything can be raised, in the House. That's why I asked you that the question of sovereignty can be raised or not. Likewise, Manipur is a sovereign state. Manipur existed before merging to India. Manipur existed for the last 2,000 years, and this cannot be simply compromised. And any provisions in any form of bill which demands the bifurcation, which could amount to the bifurcation or separation of the state in terms of administration or in terms of any other ethnicity or anything, that cannot be accepted. And how could such bills be tabled on the floor of the House of Manipur? It may happen in Assam because Assam has a different historical background. But Manipur is different.
Now,
let me come to my
Khuraizam, I have a question for you. Now, this bill in the House, is in the House is not going to be raised by ATSUM. It is going, if at all it is introduced, it will be at the initiative of the elected representatives of Manipur.
Yeah, but in that case, the recent impasses or the recent situation created by ATSUM was just few days ahead of the sitting of the second legislative assembly session. And what happens when this bill was, two amendment bills were introduced, the 6th and 7th amendment bills of the very ADC bills. But no Hill Area Committee MLA members even raised a voice. They don't oppose that bill. They don't say anything. They sit mum. And on the other side,
so who is responsible?
On the highway.
Who is responsible? Is it ATSUM which is responsible? No, Khuraizam, how do you look at it? Who is more responsible for the present situation? Is it the MLAs from the hill areas, or it is organizations like ATSUM and the federating units? Who is more responsible for this state of affairs according to you?
Responsibility is different. Regarding the bills and the issues related with Hill Area Committees and ADC empowerment, the Hill MLAs should raise it in the floor of the House. On the other side, ATSUM is resorting to highways, economic blockades and bans and compelling the government to do the things which their own MLAs can't do. Why don't they storm into their MLAs residence and engage with them so that they can come up with the bill that they asked for? It never happens. One single MLA of the Hills never speak a word in the floor of the House when the two amendment bills of the ADCs were introduced. Why don't they walk out? Why don't they oppose? And why don't they demand for the bills that ATSUM is demanding? That is why Ozab Barod has said that there is a communication gap. What is the interest of ATSUM
Professor,
when their own MLAs fails to do that?
I am absolutely running out of time. Professor, the discussions are beginning to be very, very interesting only now because according to you, the lot of MLAs from the hill areas today are alliance partners of the BJP-led government in the state. They are alliance partners. Johnson, the Naga People's Front is your alliance partner. The NPP is your alliance partner. The JDU is your alliance partner. So there are so many MLAs from the hills who are your alliance partners, Johnson.
Yeah. But the thing is, let us all understand, I think my friend Andrew must also understand that we have nothing against the bill. We have already been pleading, even the central leaders, what can be done for the hill areas, for development, for economic, comprehensive economic workout plans for the hill areas. We have already given our assurances to every step taken by our hill brethren. We will support them. Now, this has been signed in the form of signature on the Joint Forum Convention, which was held at the United Committee Manipur office in 2016. So what more assurances have to be given again? ATSUM must also realize that whatever cause for the hill is also cause for Manipur. We stand for the hill people of Manipur, and our government is strongly dedicating itself to bridging this gap, and you can see the amount of money flowing into the hill areas as compared to the previous government. It is in no way comparable.
No, that is amount of money throwing, quote unquote, into the hill areas. That is part of our Prime Minister's campaign. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Now the point is, that is the reason why the government is spending. Government cannot do anything other than developing the entire state. Now the point is, I'm running absolutely short of time. Johnson, can we expect the Chief Minister to himself initiate a meeting with the tribal leaders, civil society like ATSUM and others? Can we expect that in the near future? Very briefly.
Our Chief Minister has already initiated these steps. So I think the ATSUM counterparts must understand that whatever may be the vehicles that may come up during the discussion, it should not be spilled over to the livelihood of the people of Manipur, and we have already agreed to this point. I think the result may be temporarily positive or negative, but it will go on. Now we are all part of this state, so I think immediate dialogue must be initiated.
Yes.
And all the points which ATSUM want to raise up can be discussed along with the Hill Areas Committee along with the Chief Minister. I think we can take some time, but at the end of the day, everything has to be worked out in compliance to what they have demanded, and also for the suits for the general public sentiment, that is the integrity of Manipur.
Absolutely. Professor, your final comments, yes, 20 seconds.
My comment is that first, there should be a stakeholder meeting at the community level in the hill areas. They should settle first, and later on, after they resolve certain points, they should disseminate this information among the valley areas, so that there is no darkness, there is transparency among the general population, and we don't have fear about this development, so that there is no fear for state within state. And we need clear-cut information from the stakeholders meeting, which is I suggested this stakeholders meeting to be held at the community level of hill areas, so that they come up together, hill area committees, students association, and also with the government.
Right. Now, finally, Andrea, how is the road ahead according to you? You have suspended the economic blockade. What will be your course of action now? Are you expecting an invitation from the Chief Minister himself?
Yes, the road ahead is not easy, no doubt. I would like to remind again that ATSUM, we had yesterday also we had placed the same matter. The state government should also honor the MOU that was signed last year on 25th November with the ATSUM, and as well as the Hill Areas Committee also need to clear their position in the matter regarding the recommendation that has been made last year on 16 August 2021. And we would like to appeal the different communities of the state that this bill doesn't intend to have a separate administration or to disintegrate the state of Manipur, but in fact, rather it will bring equity development in the state of Manipur and will bring more emotional attachment between all the communities of the state.
All right, this is indeed a very, very sensitive issue. This issue concerns the hills and the valley. This has been an ongoing issue. There has been a lot of trust deficit in the past between the hill and the valley. This is something which the government of Chief Minister N. Biren Singh has been trying to bridge. But tackling the ADC issue is going to be a tricky thing, as Andrea Sinruang or General Secretary of ATSUM has said that they are willing for talks, they are also willing for a give and take approach, but at the end of the day, they want an initiative from the state government, and we expect the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh would himself lead this issue by entering into dialogue with ATSUM and the federating units. And of course, the role of the Hill Areas Committee will also be keenly watched. And the tricky situation is that several MLAs of the hills areas are today alliance partners or partners in the government of BJP-led government of N. Biren Singh. So it's a complex issue. But yes, as the ATSUM has said, they've suspended their agitation, but they might continue a democratic form of protest or an agitation in the days ahead. That's what they have indicated. But at the end of the day, this is an issue that is going to hog the limelight in the days ahead for perhaps a little more long time to come. I thank all my panelists for participating in the show and the viewers for watching the program. Good night and goodbye.